Yeah.
enough time to get us going. Oh, we're live. We're live right now. Hello to anyone watching or anyone who will watch later. Thank you, by the way, people that have watched the last couple streams, because that's kind of fun. It's fun when we get people on. And we are back, and we're going to be talking about what we have watched during the past week and give a little bit of a critique about it and hopefully get you guys to see some stuff that you haven't seen. Some of the stuff may be new, some of the stuff may be old. Actually, a lot of the stuff is probably old because there's not a lot of stuff on um,
Yeah.
right now, right? Like what's being
People
produced right now.
are producing shit these days.
Yeah.
Still waiting for the Black Widow movie.
No, we're still waiting for Tenet, which now apparently it's like
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it was
it's
supposed to be out like in 3 weeks. No, not gonna happen.
hmm I just saw an article that said it has no release date. It's just gonna be
Yeah.
whenever it is. And I don't even know what the hell Tenet's about. I know it deals with some time travel. It's like a sci-fi movie.
I have no idea. All I know is
Uh,
it's a new Christopher Nolan movie, and it's like, okay, I'm down with that,
yeah, I'm
but
down with it.
it's not coming out.
Yeah, yeah, but I have no clue. I just know it's this movie people really want to see, but I haven't even seen a trailer or anything. So I'm just gonna wait till whenever
I'm
it's out.
desperate for the New Mutants, man. The New Mutants was a movie that, like, when they first advertised it, it's like, ah, man, that's gonna be garbage. You don't want to see that. And then, like, after 2 years, it's like, actually, I kind of do, just to just to actually see the movie.
Well,
But
it's a
now yeah, it's reached the point where it doesn't matter. It doesn't
well,
matter.
in a way, it's great marketing. I think like whatever the next movie is, it's just gonna make a lot of money, regardless of if
Yeah.
it's a good or bad movie. By the way, Pete, did you read the story about these guys who actually got the number one movie in America? And what did they do? They filmed, I think it was a horror movie that they filmed via Zoom, and then they rented
I did
out a
see that
theater.
on the horror
Yes,
on the horror group. I read that. Yes.
yes, and they rented out a theater, and just for them renting out that theater, they got the number one movie in America, which is cool. If you got I think it was 10,000 or $20,000 or something that they spent. If you got the cash, that's
Yeah,
kind
it
of a
doesn't
cool
take
thing.
many people to make a blockbuster these days.
I know it's so funny when I started reading in the film group. By the way, guys, Talking Films is the group we mostly hang out in, but I'm in a bunch of other ones, but Talking Films is my favorite. So shout out to Justin and send him good vibes because I don't want to get too personal here, but he had something kind of shitty
Exactly.
happen in his personal life. But sending out good vibes to Justin because he's a good dude. And the it was funny when I started seeing those reports like E.T. number one movie in America or something, or like Jaws number one. I was like, wait, what happened? But it's the drive-in. Drive-ins are making good money right now, and they're
Yeah.
showing all the old stuff. So that's kind of cool. Very cool. So guys, we're gonna get to it. So let's start with just seeing the movies that we're gonna look at today. We're gonna be talking 1917, which I just finished watching about half an hour ago. And then I'm going to be also talking a little bit of wrestling at the end, King of the Ring. And what about you, Pete?
I would like to talk about two movies that the groups that we just talked about recommended to us, and that would be The Old Guard and The Beach House.
All right, cool. So if I'm not mistaken, my friend, I put you first this week. So I think we're going to be
No, I
talking
would like
some,
you. Oh, really? You're gonna make me go first?
yes, we're talking some Charlize Theron kicking some butt.
Yes. Yeah. She's badass.
So what's this movie about? I never even heard of it before.
All right. All right, so it's a comic book movie, and it is based on a comic book written by Greg Rucka. I don't know which company he wrote this comic book for because I know the writer. I know the writer because he wrote Batman and he wrote X Men. He's written a lot of shit, but this I've never heard of.
It's Image Comics.
But
Image Comics.
basically, it's the story. Image Comics. Okay, okay. So yeah, it's basically a comic book adaptation about a group of mercenaries who don't die. That's their thing. They don't die. They're immortal, except they're not. They reach a point where actually you can die,
Oh, did we
which
lose
is the
Pete?
whole sad. Um, they they have this thing where they're serving the greater good, basically. They they feel like, okay, we're invincible, so we're gonna take jobs for money, but we're gonna do them for the good of the people. That's the thing, and they can't die, and the the villain of the movie is a big pharma guy. Of course, big pharma has to be the villain, and yeah, he is. He's like, okay, we're going to steal their DNA, and we're going to market it to people and save lives, which sort of seems heroic, but not really because you're kidnapping and murdering people. So there's that aspect to it, but yeah, basically it's invincible superheroes versus big pharma.
So it's not a TV show. It's a movie.
It's a movie, yes.
Is
One
it any
time,
good?
2 hours.
That's
Yes, it's
that's the
excellent
main question.
actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
And
because
let me ask you: does Charlize Theron have like superpowers? Because I see her kicking some butt, and she's kind
she's
of
2,000 years. She's
oh,
two
she's
thousand years old.
she's eating a lot of rice and beans in that time. No, because she's so tiny. She's so
Yeah,
tiny.
she's a cool character, and actually, she is the main character. But one thing about this movie, and I know you're busting my nuts earlier, and I'm gonna remind you of this. But there's this character who was a Marine in Afghanistan, and she gets her throat slit, and it turns out she's just one of these people. She's one of these people that has this gift to live forever and be a mercenary for the greater good.
Whoa! What is that noise, brother? Anyway,
Sorry?
let me. No, it just got real noisy. um, yeah, no, because the thing with a lot of these, well, not a lot, but sometimes with some female characters in movies, they weigh like a buck 20, and they're beating up people like three times their size. And when I saw this in the clip, I was like, huh. But I guess she's had time to like work out. I guess I don't know. But it's kind of silly. It's like that Batwoman show was like that. The girl was so tiny,
Right.
and yet she was kicking everybody's butt. I'm like, how is she doing that? But hey, suspended animation. I mean, I'll check it out. I like a good comic book story. Where can people find it other than like pirated?
I actually think it's a Netflix original. So if you have Netflix, you can probably watch it direct.
Uh, Okay, yeah, Netflix usually has some good stuff on there. I'm so upset with all the that they cut out Daredevil because I was actually digging that show a lot.
Yeah,
But
that guy should
hopefully,
be Bond, man. Everyone's talking about Elbow being Bond, but I swear to God, Charlie Cox should be Bond.
is he British?
He is actually. He plays an Irishman in Boardwalk Empire, but he's actually British.
Oh, okay. Um, I guess I didn't see him as very Bondish. He's kind of homely in a way, like good looking homely. You know, like those kind of homely people,
Right.
guys that girls actually dig, unlike us.
Right. Yeah.
We're the bad homely. We're the homely that actually are really homely, like have no money. Like if you're rich and you're homely, chicks dig it. But if you're poor
Right.
and you're homely, not so much. All right, I'll check it out. I'll see. I got to see a trailer for it. Honestly, I never even heard of the of the movie, but I'll check it out. And then we're gonna move ahead, and we are going to. Let me see if I can do this because I kind of suck at this. Is that yes? That's 1917.
That is
And
1917. Yes.
I know, and
Damn,
man,
that
oh
was a good
man,
movie.
it was a wonderful movie. And I kind of got on the um, World Wars, I should say, plural, bandwagon after I saw Greyhound last week. Because you had talked about it, but I hadn't
All
seen it.
right.
So then I did catch it after we did our podcast. Um, and I really, really, really liked Greyhound. I thought it was a cool movie, but I get the criticism for it. It's not a very character-based movie. It's very much
It's not
like you
deep.
had.
It's not deep.
It's not deep at all. It's like you had mentioned. It's just like a 90-minute battle, and it just starts and it
Yeah.
gets straight to the
Which,
point,
which is
and
what
there's
makes
not
it
much.
cool.
I agree. I was arguing that point today in a movie group because somebody posted this article about why Greyhound got me so upset. And I read the article thinking he was going to go on that angle, that it didn't really have a lot of character development, didn't have a lot of this and that. But he spent a whole article talking about how he couldn't understand the techno babble of it all, of like what
Oh,
was
that's
actually
bullshit.
happening. Yeah, I thought that was bullshit because I'm the worst at that. I mean, I
Yeah.
I kind of even technobabble is a term that comes from Star Trek when they're just kind of trying to explain what they're doing in this technical jargon that makes no sense, but you still get it. I mean, I don't know. I'm usually kind of bad at understanding stuff like that, and I can sort of get lost sometimes in movies that are too technical. But at the same time, I didn't think this movie was that technical. Like he was like, we weren't even sure where the
How
submarines
fucking
were,
technical is starboard?
and
Starboard. Starboard
so,
means right. It means right.
yeah, and port. What is it? Port and um, port is the back, right?
No, port is the left.
Port is the left. Starboard is the right. What is the front and back of the ship called?
Um, God damn it, I don't know. I'm
Oh,
embarrassed. My
but look
dad.
at that. No, don't be embarrassed because the whole time I'm thinking starboard and port were front and back. So you don't have to be embarrassed. And that should prove the point that this movie is not that difficult to understand, even if you don't understand the
Yeah,
fucking technical jargon of like, submarine warfare, Navy warfare, even Star Trek. They use that all the time. Really, I never knew that. And I've been watching Star Trek for 20 years. And whenever they said star I always figured they were talking about the front of the ship, like move the ship ahead and like
no, starboard is the right. My dad was in the Navy.
oh god, I
He
didn't know that.
reinforced all these naval terms to me.
So now I gotta look it up. What is the back? It's the stern. The stern lies
Ah, the stern.
opposite the
Yes, the
bow.
stern.
Yeah,
Yes, the
the
bow and the
bow is the
stern.
front and stern is the back. That was in the back of my mind. I don't know. I guess I'm not in that many Navy battles to remember it. But
Yeah, yeah.
in either case, I thought the article was kind of bullshit because I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, you hated the movie because he was complaining about how, oh, I didn't know where the submarines were and where the ships was." I mean, they showed the submarines. It would surface every once in a while, so you knew that where they were and where they were coming from. And like, I didn't quite get what his complaint was, but it's a very surface level movie, no pun intended,
Yeah.
in the
You
sense
know,
that
one of the valid complaints that I heard was that about the German guy who keeps cutting in on the radio feed. Like,
Yes.
you Americans, you are so doomed. You are destined to fall to our missiles.
Yeah, and I'm
It's
gonna
like,
fuck your wife
okay,
and kids or something.
yeah. it was that was actually pretty bad. I have to admit that was a bad aspect to it.
But I don't, what I liked about it is that I don't think it pretended to try to want to be anything more than Battleship. Like that movie actually reminded me of the game Battleship. Like I sunk your Battleship.
Have you seen? There is actually a movie battle
Yes, there is. I never saw it
where
because
they
I just figured it would be that. I figured it would be that bad. You know, I don't know.
it is, but
Yes.
it's like kind of enjoyable.
No, but this was an actually good version of what maybe a Battleship movie could be. But I liked it. But we're getting off topic because what I meant to talk about was 1917, and I
Right,
only brought
we're
that
talking
up
about 1917.
because I kind of got in the vibe. Once I saw one, I was like, man, I got to watch another. And it was during a discussion about Greyhound that our friend Craig, I've seen every movie on the planet, Wooten, reminded me to watch it because I'm so terrible, guys. I have movies and TV shows that I really want to watch, and I'm like, oh, I really have to see this. Like last week with I'm Not Your Negro. Like I wanted to see that so bad. And then I don't know what happens. Like I get distracted by shit, usually porn. But, like when after and then before you know it, like it's out of the theaters, and then I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I've been watching the first season of the original MacGyver, for God's sake. Like I was watching that
Oh
before
my goodness!
1917. Oh, I love MacGyver, and I just had to go. Like I was in flashback mode. So it's really enjoyable, actually. I'll talk about MacGyver after I'm done the whole season. But the so 1917 is one of those movies that I was like, oh, I really want to see it. I really want to see it. And then eventually, so I just saw it tonight. And what a great movie. So this one, it gets the best parts of Greyhound, which I thought were the action and just the plot moving forward. Um, and some of the which I thought were better in that movie Dunkirk, which was actually the cinematography and visuals were really beautiful in Dunkirk, even though I didn't really dig the movie. But then it added that extra element, which is actual characters in that we cared
Yes,
about.
exactly. Characters made the movie.
So yeah, it was just this perfect movie, and I now it made me want to go back and watch Saving Private Ryan because I'm seriously like considering if this is not one of the better World War with a plural movie that I've seen. Because I don't know, I mean, have you seen? For me, Saving Private Ryan is probably like the top one, but even though it kind of fizzles
Saving
towards the
Private
end.
Ryan is the best. Yeah.
But as far as just showing the war, I don't think you can get much better than Saving Private Ryan. But I dug the journey of this movie a little bit more, and it's in a way it's similar to Saving Private Ryan because he's going out there, without giving away any spoilers. There's the Germans have retreated from where they are in their trenches, and the general gives an order to these two lieutenants saying, hey, you got to go to this other, what do you call them, squadron somewhere out there, to let them
Yeah.
know, do not move forward because it's a trap. The Germans have retreated, but only to
But they
fortify.
do. They do move forward. That's the whole infuriating thing about
Don't
it.
give
Like
away
the
spoilers,
whole
even though
mission
it's
doesn't
right in
tell
the
you.
gift. It's right in the gift that they do end up moving forward. But well, they
All
had
right.
no way of
Sorry.
knowing. They had
Sorry.
no
Sorry.
way. That's okay.
Bad. Bad
That's
Peter.
not a big spoiler because it's right there in the gift. But anyway, but um, what do you call it? But they had no radio communications. They had no way to communicate with these people. So it's a situation
Right.
where they um, they have no way of knowing, and they think that this is the time to
Yeah.
attack because they got the Germans with their backs up against the wall, but it's really just a trap. But man, was it good? The
Yeah,
journey to get there was awesome. Uh, and they added that element of suspense throughout, which I thought was really cool about the movie, is that it's these two guys that are moving ahead, and
right.
they I like that there was a suspense element to the movie because it's weird, like when they finally cross the no man's land and get to the German side of the trench and there's no Germans there, and it's like, why aren't they here? What's going on? Like, it had a real cool, like, thriller suspense element that the
Yeah,
director put in, which I thought was awesome. So you're following this mystery because you're as puzzled as the the two guys are, and you also had
yeah,
the ticking time clock, which goes to, it's like very like it's a Hitchcock. Um, I watched a
yeah.
few videos of
You know
Hitchcock.
the story. You know the story. Like it's not a fucking surprise, but at the same time, like you don't know this story.
But
So yeah, it actually
have
very
you
well.
ever seen Hitchcock talk about the bomb theory for suspense, where
No,
he talks about the difference between suspense and just shock. When he gives this example of, imagine two people are walking on the street in a movie and a bomb goes off, boom. It's shocking. It kind of rattles your bones. Can be good in a movie. Some movies need a shock. But then he talks about the suspense theory, which he uses a lot in his movies, is you tell the audience that there is a bomb and it's going to go off in 10 minutes. And you see the couple walking down the street. So now it's like, I've told you what's going to happen, and your anticipation of whether or not it's going to happen or not is what draws you into the movie, which is what this movie did. It told you what's going to happen. It's a trap.
yeah,
The guys are moving forward. They're no longer there, right, in their trenches. So that adds this whole element of suspense throughout the movie. So I like it on that level because it wasn't just an action movie. It wasn't just a World War II movie. In a lot of parts of it, it operated on a very suspense level, which I thought was cool. And
yeah. Actually, there was very little violence in this movie, which was shocking for a World War I movie.
yeah, yeah, very little. I agree with that. But one of the best parts of the movie, and actually the movie won an Oscar for it, was the cinematography, man. Oh my goodness.
Yes, it
I
was
mean,
beautiful,
it
beautiful.
was fucking incredible, that kind of one shot type filmmaking.
Yeah, the widescreen, the widescreen
Not just the
was amazing.
widescreen, but the one shot, you know? Like,
Yeah,
that was kind of
yeah,
like the gimmick
yeah,
of the movie, is that it looks, I
yeah,
mean, obviously it wasn't all filmed in one shot, but it looks as if it was filmed as one long continuous shot. And the camera just
yeah.
follows. Oh man, that was so perfectly done. I mean, my goodness. Later I got to watch some YouTube videos on how the hell they pulled that off, cuz aside from one scene where this character here, I forgot his name now. It's Scott. I forgot his name. Um, but he kind of gets knocked on his head and he closes his eyes so the screen goes black. Aside from that, which
Right.
is an obvious cut, it's really difficult for you to figure out where the cuts happen. I mean, it's so seamlessly put together. It's fucking incredible. It's
Yeah,
Lance Corporal. What is his name? Lance Corporal Schofield. That's his name. Yes, that's one of the main characters. And then we have Lance Corporal Blake is another character in the movie, and it was Benedict Cumberbatch at the end. Okay, Colonel Mackenzie. They really aged him really well, and it's based on a true story.
wow.
So I definitely recommend this movie if you're a fan of World War plural movies. You'll definitely dig it. Um, but even if you're not, because I'll be honest, I'm not a huge war movie guys. There's people that really love the genre. I've seen my share of them, but they're not those type of movies that are like I have to run out to see. they tend to get a bit repetitive for me after a while. But I mean, before this movie, I think the best World War I movie I had seen was Wonder Woman. No, come on. That scene where she's crossing no man's land is fucking classic. That's badass scene right there.
Yeah, it is a badass scene, but yeah, no,
I
you
think
got to
so.
go back to like the 1930s to see good
Yeah,
World
what's that?
War
All
One.
Quiet on the Western Front.
All
Is
Quiet
that?
on the Western Front, exactly.
Yes. Yeah, but is that World War I or two though?
That's one. That's one. It
It's
was made in
one.
1930. There
It was
wasn't
made
no
in
World War.
1930. Oh, I thought it was a little bit
Yeah,
later that it came out. Okay, I thought it was made in the
no,
50s. Oh, cool.
no.
Yeah, I gotta go back a little bit further to watch. But obviously, they didn't have the technical uh, magic that we have today to make
Yeah,
to give
it
us the
was cheap, but
realism.
the cool thing about that movie is it was told from a German point of view.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. Um, there's movies I gotta watch and rewatch. So you're giving me more stuff to look for this weekend. Yeah, but I've never been a big war movie buff. I think my favorite obvious is maybe Apocalypse Now. I've seen that a couple hundred times. And
Really, I was never a big fan of that.
really, I saw it. You know when I saw it for the first time was in New York City when they released the deluxe edition, which was like 3 fucking hours long with all these added scenes, and I felt like I had gone through the war myself because that was way too long. I think sometimes it's editors are good, you know. It's good
Yeah,
to
I think it
good
just
to.
I think it just kind of romanticized the whole thing too much.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say romanticized. Uh, I think that was kind of. How do I say this? Like, at least what I felt when I watched it is not that he was romanticizing it, but he purposely tried to glorify it to make people see how fucking crazy it was and insane. Like
It was excessive. It was
yeah,
very excessive.
yeah, but I think that was like on purpose to show like we shouldn't be romanticizing this stuff. We shouldn't be glorifying this stuff. It was fucking hell,
Right,
but
right.
look how Um, so I think that was a directorial choice. I mean, look. I mean, you get Marlon Brando at the end, just fucking hamming it
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
So when
yeah.
you
He
have,
was off the charts, man.
I know. Have you ever seen the behind the scenes of him practicing or not practicing? What do you call it? Rehearsing that stuff. He was fucking insane.
Rehearsing, yeah.
He had already gone off the deep end by that time. That was like the post.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Marlon Brando was insane from 1970 on.
And you feel it in that movie, yes. And I mean, it's one of my
Yeah.
favorite scenes ever in cinema. But you definitely feel it. I actually, because I have to teach U.S. history at the high school I work, and I used this mashup that they have on YouTube of The Doors, the song "The End." It's like this 10-minute clip where they have the clips from the movie when I get into Vietnam War. And it
Okay.
works, man. I mean, these kids, after they're done watching this, their mouths are just open, like, and then I ask them, how do you feel? Da 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 da. And they're like, that's. So it did its job, Apocalypse Now, I think, does its job of just trying its best to
Yeah,
show the insanity of what it is that was going on at that time. And then aside from that,
and you know the
go ahead.
no. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna just say aside from that, I can't think of too many other war movies that I like, and then I was gonna ask you what your favorite war movie was.
Right. Well, okay. I will answer both questions. First, in terms of Apocalypse Now, this book is actually based on a short story written by Joseph Conrad. And fuck, I can't remember the name of it. I'm gonna have to Google it now. But it's based on a short story that is actually it has nothing to do with the Vietnam War. It is actually about social isolation, which
Mm.
is incredibly ironic, actually. Um, but yeah, it's about people living in environments that are not natural.
Well, that makes
And
sense.
yeah, as far as my favorite war movie goes, that would be Platoon.
Oh, I remember Platoon. I watched that when I was a kid, so I remember almost nothing from it. But my brother would make me watch that all the time. Oliver Stone, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I couldn't tell you one thing from that movie, but I know I've seen it about at least two times. Because when I
Oh,
was
really?
younger, my
I've
brother
seen
was a
it like
huge.
40 times.
Oh wow! I'll try to rewatch it. My brother was a huge Oliver Stone fan when Oliver Stone was like the director, for
He
about
was the director for a while.
yeah, for about 10 years or so. And I don't recall much from it. I don't know why. I guess because at the time I just wasn't into war movies that much. I think the first one that I saw that kind of got me into it was probably Saving Private Ryan. But even that movie fizzles out for me. Like,
Really?
towards the end, like after they find Matt Damon, I'm like, I can't even tell you what happens after they find him. Like, I know that they still got to run through some villages and shit, or not villages, some towns. Um, but I don't know. It just never has never been a genre that got me that pumped, I guess. I don't know, for whatever
I,
reason.
I think one thing that really works about Platoon nowadays is because Charlie Sheen has become such an asshole. Um, when when you see Charlie Sheen as the person that he has become, and he is the hero of Platoon. He is the hero. He's completely the hero.
I
Um,
have to watch it again. By the way,
yeah,
I gotta cut you off for a second because we do have a viewer. So say hello if you're out there. Thanks for checking in. We're doing our weekly movie wrap up, and if you have a movie that you saw this week and you want us to, check it out, or you want to say something about it, oh, we got two viewers. Hello, two viewers out there. So
Jesus
if you got a
Christ.
if you got a movie that you think we should check out or that you checked out last week, let us know in the comments and we'll check them out. Currently, we're talking about war movies because I checked out 1917, which I thought was fucking fabulous, absolutely fabulous, and we kind of went off on a little tangent about what our favorite war movies are. Mine. What did I say mine was? I think I forgot already. Was it Apocalypse Now? I think it was.
It was
And
Apocalypse Now.
yes, and Pete was saying, was it Platoon?
Platoon, yes.
Platoon. So I gotta rewatch Platoon because what I was saying is that I'm not a huge fan of the war movie genre. Although I do like submarine movies for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, Run Silent, Run Deep. Uh,
But you know what I think that is? It's because I like Star Wars, not Star Wars, Star Trek so much. And Star Trek, a lot of the times it gets into submarine movie style.
it
It's
does,
just
yeah. We're cloaked. We're not cloaked. We're cloaked.
yes, yeah. I kind of dig that a little bit more than just a bunch of people running around trying to shoot at each other. So, but I'll check that out. But let's move on to the next movie, which is, I believe it's a horror movie that came out this year. It's The Beach House. Let me put it
Oh,
here on the
damn.
screen.
Damn. That's my
And we're going
screen.
to talk a little Beach House. Talk a little bit about it. I need to grab a smoke. So have fun. Don't say anything I wouldn't say.
All right. So basically, this is a very romantic movie. It starts with a young couple going to the beach in Washington State. And I see Craig is watching us, which is cool because he's living in Washington. Um, yeah, it's a couple that goes to Washington State to the beach, and they get infected by bacterial plague. Basically, that's the story. It is absolutely disgusting how badly that the bacterial infection is portrayed. Because, I mean, I can see gory violence for days. It doesn't matter. Like, head chopped off, fucking babies being eaten. I can handle that.
Oh my god, I just came back and you're talking about babies getting eaten.
Yeah, well, sorry. Yeah.
I'm joking. I know
Uh,
what you're talking about.
yeah. But, I mean, it was just.
This is the level of our broadcast, by the way, for anybody watching. We have uh, two broadcasters who don't mind watching babies be eaten.
Yeah, yeah, but that would have been preferable. Like this chick gets like a bacterial infection in her leg, and I was looking at that. I was like, man, that is the grossest thing I have ever seen. It
Oh
is
my
so
god!
disgusting.
And does it progress throughout the movie?
Yes, yeah. Well,
Oh,
actually, she. I don't want to spoil the ending for people, so I don't really know how to address that. But yeah, she gets over the initial infection. She doesn't get over
mm.
everything else, but you know that's another story. But
uh,
yeah, no, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say. Speaking of infections, it just reminded me of in 1917, right at the beginning of the movie, where they're crossing getting to the other side of the trenches, and the boy cuts his hand. And I thought that was going to be something worse than it was. I thought he was going to get a real nasty infection. Because remember, the other boy kind of trips over him or bumps into him, and
Right?
his hand goes into the carcass of a dead German. And I was like,
Yeah,
that's going to be nasty. But I don't want to give
yeah,
anything away because, I mentioned Hitchcock when it came to that movie. There's another Hitchcockian thing that happens in that movie that you didn't expect as far as who the main characters are and stuff like that. I don't want to give too much away other than that. But if you watch Psycho, you'll know what I'm talking about. But anyway, go ahead.
no, it was just like it had this really weird vibe because like I will actually do the pedestrian thing and walk you through it from the beginning. So basically, it's this couple that are about to be married. Um, the woman in the couple is a scientist, so she's super smart. She knows more than everybody, and of course, we're all retarded for not listening to her. Uh, but yeah, that's basically what the story is. Um, and they go to this cabin. The boyfriend, it's his parents' cabin, so he's taking her there to woo her and have a romantic time. But his dad has actually lent the cabin to his friends, and his friends are like old people, the same age as the boyfriend's dad. So they're like in their 60s, and I like that vibe. I like that vibe. They were old people relating to young people, and it was good the way they had that going on. But at some point, a toxic mist comes out of the ocean and poisons everybody and kills everybody. So at that point, the whole human relationship story kind of went in the toilet.
So this is a straight up horror movie. Is this a Blumhouse movie? Blumhouse production? One of these?
I do not know.
Let me see. Producers Andrew Corkin. It doesn't say anything about it. Where I'm looking. Did this come out in the movies or is this is pre-pandemic, 2019?
No, no, it's 2020.
Oh, here it has 2009. Well, I see two. It says 2020 and 2019, so who knows? Maybe it came out at the very end of the year.
No, it was released on
IMDb,
that.
IMDb has 2019, but
It
then
was
right
released on
under it, it
that
says
streaming site, the horror streaming site, Shutter. Shutter.
Shutter. Yeah, okay. This is weird. Initial release 2019, but then when you actually look under, it says The Beach House is a 2019 American horror film written and directed by Jeffrey A. Brown in his directorial debut. The Beach House had its world premiere in Strasbourg European Fantastic Film Festival in September 2019. The film was made available for streaming on Shudder on July
Oh,
9th. That's
okay.
weird that it waited that long for it to get to audiences. That's
Yeah,
strange.
no, it's a good movie, man. It's enjoyable. It's not very optimistic. I will tell you that it it doesn't end well for anyone. Like you think, okay, like the old people are gonna die, but the young people maybe will survive. Spoiler alert, they don't. Actually,
Oh
everyone.
man, don't spoil it for me. I want to watch it. um, let me see here. Yeah, I'm looking for some good. Looking for some good horror because there hasn't been much in the horror genre of
Actually,
late.
if you check up with Scott on the horror group, he is
Mm-hmm.
posting amazing movie links.
Oh,
Like I,
shout out to Scott. Yeah.
yeah, like, I can't keep up with them.
No, he's on another level when it comes to horror. He's on another level. Well, let's move on. Well, we got our viewer here, and we're gonna end today's broadcast talking about one of my favorite things on the planet, which is wrestling. And
Ah,
yes, and yeah, so guys, what we're watching doesn't necessarily always have to be movies or TV shows. It can just be, maybe you saw like an interesting docu series on YouTube or something. Uh, so if you have anything that you want to leave in the comments that we should check out that was really nice, maybe out to left field, put it there. Not an issue. And after watching The Last Ride, I just got back into some of my old school wrestling. I mean, I always watch at least a couple times a
of
month. I go
course.
on wrestling binges, but I'm back on my wrestling binges, and I've been watching a whole bunch of Undertaker matches. And you know why I watched this, Pete? Because you had posted that video of the what's the Japanese guy, Mota, the
Keiji Muto.
Muto, yeah, the great Muto, in that fight in Japan where he gets all bloodied up, and that's like the Muto. What is it? What do they call it? The Muto level of blood?
The Muta scale. The Muta
The
scale.
Muto scale of blood. But that reminded me of another match in Japan, which was against was
Cactus Jack and Terry
Cactus
Funk.
Cactus Jack and Terry Funk, which isn't a very exciting match. But I like that in the YouTube version of it, they actually have Mankind, what's his name, Foley, actually narrating it. I think it's like
Oh,
they
really?
must have.
I
It's
have
really
to admit,
good.
I didn't actually watch it because I own the videotape, so I didn't watch the
Check it
videos.
out because it's really nice. I don't know if he did it actually watching the video or if he actually was reading out of it a book that he wrote or something about that incident and it just matched perfectly. But it's really cool because
Right.
he gives you kind of like a background of what was happening and how messed up the match was, and it didn't really go as planned. And
Yeah.
how they just try to build it up because things are supposed to be exploding all the time, and they landed
Yeah.
on barbed wire that was supposed to explode, and they didn't allow them to really test the C4 beforehand. And even he admits,
Yeah.
no, he admits like, I didn't want to do this. I mean, we could get seriously hurt. It was Terry Funk that said, "Man,
No,
don't
but
worry
that's what I
about it."
was. That's what I was telling you, man. Like you were telling me, like, oh man, this match is so awesome. And I was like, dude, that promotion screwed these people so bad.
I think he made like $300 or something off of that
Yes,
match.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They made like no fucking money at all. So like it's a legendary match, and I enjoy it. But man, the people responsible for promoting that were just monsters.
Horrible, horrible. But it's incredible his dedication to the craft, and it's incredible that he was still around. Like I guess almost a decade later. This Undertaker match was when in 1998. That match was
Yes.
sometime in the 80s. It's incredible. Like I don't get this dude. Like what does he have? So he just some people are averse to pain. They do have like a high pain scale, and it just has to
Yeah.
do with genetics. And they need to study this guy. He's from another planet. As far as his ability to take pain and walk away. And every time I watch this Hell in the Cell match, I still can't get over it. Like what we're watching right here. This him getting thrown off the top of the cage. I'm like, how does a person survive that and still fight more and still get? Didn't he get choke slammed from the top of the cage down onto
Yeah,
the?
yeah, through the top of the cage.
Yeah, so like he's on the stretcher, he gets off the stretcher, he climbs back up with a smile on his face, and then the Undertaker choke slams him from the top of the cage, and he's still like, although I'll tell you this, I saw an interview with him about this match. That's another reason I kind of wanted to watch it again, where he's giving a bit more background, and he said he didn't remember much of what was going on after he got thrown
He
off.
broke his ankle. He broke his ankle
I
going
know
to
the
the top of the
Undertaker. I
cage.
think broke his foot too when he and you can watch it in a match when he jumps down from the cage.
Yeah.
He lands kind of wrongly on his foot, so he broke his foot, I think. And of Mankind got a concussion, so he doesn't know what's going on, and you can see through the because you had mentioned how it's a very one-sided match. And that's because
It is.
Foley just,
It's really brutal. It's one sided.
yeah,
Like it's just
because
the
Foley just
atmosphere
wasn't in there
getting this
afterwards.
bad. Yeah.
He was talking about it, and he was saying how there's that moment where Terry Funk goes to check on him, and the Undertaker jumps down, and there's words exchanged, and he said that what were the words that were exchanged, and he said Undertaker simply asked, "Is he alive?" And then when Terry Funk, but they did it, when there's without breaking kayfabe or whatever they call it, without breaking character. And when Terry Funk said yes, Undertaker choke slams him, and then and then Fowley said he didn't remember anything after that first drop. He says the next thing I remember when I kind of came to were these sneakers. That's like the only thing he remembers. Like there was these sneakers next to me, and the first thought that came to my mind is, whose shoes are these? Man, absolutely
Well,
insane.
you know, you saw that documentary where he wrestled Goldberg, um,
Yes, that was a
and
dangerous match.
and Goldberg does his killer finisher, and oh man, like you look at that, it's like, oh shit, that shit went horribly wrong,
It was,
so wrong,
but that
so
was
wrong.
another one where Goldberg got a concussion because he was running and he hit his head right on the post, and he after that he just
Yeah,
wasn't.
exactly. It's not his fault. It's not his fault.
And
He
and
fucked his head
and
up.
and they didn't go into it in the documentary, probably to make the Undertaker look a little bit better. But I remember the first time I watched that match, uh, what caught me was not the botched move by Goldberg, but was the botched move by the Undertaker when he goes to do the Tombstone pile driver, and he doesn't get Goldberg's head in there right, and Goldberg's head.
Yeah,
Uh,
they didn't work well together. They
they
just
they
didn't
they
mesh.
yeah, they didn't gel very well, and Undertaker also almost cost Goldberg his career too there, but they didn't really go into that in the documentary. You wonder why. But that was a definite botched move. So there was like back to back botched moves in that match. It was just a really bad one, you know. But I want to just uh, when it comes to wrestling, I so wish that we could get back to a little bit of this. I mean, obviously, this is ultra violent, ultra dangerous for athletes nowadays. They can't really do this that much anymore. But it's the WWE. Although I mean, Justin keeps telling me to watch this other. Is it AW something? The one that Jericho is heading.
AEW,
Yeah,
yeah,
he
him and
says it's a
AOA.
little bit more
Oh,
hardcore. So I'm gonna try to check it out because wrestling without the hardcore, man, it's so fucking boring nowadays. I can't sit through a match. I try,
I
and
don't know. I like the old school shit. I
no,
actually like
I like
the
no. Go ahead, go
you
ahead.
know like before it all had to be like ultra violent and shit. Like Ric Flair or Ricky Steamboat, those guys didn't do ultra violent shit. Those guys like just told stories, and that was actually better for me. Actually,
Man, I agree with you because that was the second thing I was gonna say. It's not necessarily the ultra violence that I like, even though I do, but it's a story
yeah,
behind
of
it.
course, ultra
It's a
violence is
story,
good.
you know. So you get a mix. You get a mix of the did I just see that with the really great storylines that were being told, and I think um, the Undertaker talks about that a little bit in the video. He in the documentary. He doesn't want to shit too much on the company because obviously he's the ultimate company man. But he did mention
He's the company man.
yeah, he's the ultimate company man. But he does
Yeah,
bring that up a little bit where he's like, what the young kids are missing today is the story element of it. Because I watch it, and the young kids,
right.
I mean, they're awesome athletes. Like, I can't say anything bad about what CM Punk and AJ Styles, and these are like the top guys. What's that, Roman
Oh,
Reigns? They're incredible.
dude. I, 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 I hate to interrupt you, but
No,
I
go
was
ahead.
actually watching Judgment Day the other day,
Yes.
and like how JBL ever became a star. Like I just don't know. You know me. I like Dallas. I like J.R. Ewing, and that
Mm-hmm.
character was obviously based on J.R. Ewing.
Yes.
But yeah, John Bradshaw Layfield as a star just didn't work for me.
I was not a huge fan of him myself when he was on. I mean, every once in a while he'd be a good heel, but I didn't I liked him better off the out of the ring than in the ring. He didn't do much for me in the ring when he actually had to fight people.
Right,
He was okay as a commentator,
right.
but
It was mostly like it was apologizing for not making Ted DiBiase the champion when he should have been.
but that's $1 million man.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I was about to say that JBL seemed like the newer version of the $1 million man, but the $1 million man was way better than JBL. But the thing is,
he was
yeah,
considered one of the five best workers in the world when he was active. Ted
no, he was
DiBiase
great.
was like
He was
incredible.
great. You know, he was a great heel, one of the
Yeah,
greatest. You know, but but it's that's what I'm missing a little bit from wrestling is these characters and the stories that they can tell. Because I watch it, what I was saying before was I can't fault their athleticism. I mean, they're awesome. They're doing these
no,
somersaults and they're jumping from here. They're doing stuff that these guys that we were just talking about couldn't do. You know, I mean, but I'm not there to watch Cirque du Soleil. Like I want to actually get a story. I want to care about somebody. I want to
right,
see an actual nasty guy. You know, that's a real asshole. Somebody that I can love to hate. And I don't know. I'm doing my best because I hate to like not watch wrestling anymore. But I haven't watched wrestling in quite some
right.
time. It's been at least maybe a decade that I haven't really kept up with like the new
Yeah,
stuff.
me too, me too.
I'll check it out every once in a while to see
But
if maybe I'll like somebody, but I haven't found anybody that I got into. But but then when you go into this,
I will tell you one guy I really got into was Randy Orton. Um,
yeah, but he's
uh,
still coming from. He's still a little bit before. I remember that was when I was still watching wrestling a little bit, like 2008, 2009. So
right,
Randy still has a little bit of the spirit of the that school, which came from like The Rock
right,
and
right.
uh,
Yeah,
even a
yeah,
little bit of
exactly.
Austin,
He was like The
Steve
Rock.
Austin.
He was exactly like The Rock.
Yeah, no, I dug him.
He
I
had
remember
that.
watching.
Yeah, he had that attitude. I was watching a match with him the other day with Mick Foley. Mick Foley.
Yes.
He was wrestling as Cactus Jack,
Uh
and
huh.
man, they threw thumbtacks down in the ring, and he got body slammed into the thumbtacks, and you were looking at that shit, and you're like, man, I know this shit is fake, but that must really hurt. It must really, really hurt.
Yeah, it's that pain
And
threshold.
yeah, so
No,
yeah,
Randy got
yeah,
better. Randy, the thing with
yeah,
Randy
it
is
was
he
good.
got better.
So
He got better. He's never. I remember his gimmick was the Legend Killer for a while, and I think that was his
yeah, exactly.
best gimmick for a good
Yeah, yeah.
time.
Shawn Michaels, Cactus Jack.
Yes, and I was right about when I kind of stopped watching. It was like Batista was still wrestling, and he was Rey Mysterio. What's the Booker
Yeah,
T? You
Batista
know
was
that
horrible. I I did not like Batista at all.
he was okay. I know people that don't like him. The
And
Animal. I mean, he had an okay gimmick, but that was right around the time when they still had some decent stories. I remember, they what's his name? Guerrero was still alive, and that was a nice. They would have a real nice storyline
right,
between him and his wife, and if she was cheating. I remember when Undertaker tombstoned Eddie Guerrero's wife. That was one of my favorite. Because she was
it's
such a
kind of mean.
bitch, man. She was
Kind of
such an
mean.
annoying bitch. It was great, and I think she was in a wheelchair too, or did he put her in a wheelchair after? But that's just like one of my most favorite tombstone pile drivers ever. Just shut up, bitch! Wow. And Big Show was still wrestling. And then after that, I don't know. I don't think they've been able to find real interesting characters. Like they're trying too hard. But we'll see what the future of wrestling holds. But if you are a younger guy, because the thing with wrestling, I'm in a few wrestling Facebook groups. It is incredible how there are some younger people, like in their 20s, maybe early 30s, that actually have never seen these old matches. And I feel old,
right.
because to me, that's like, if somebody says, oh, did you watch that? When, what's his name? Oh, no, I forgot his name. See, what's the Dusty Rhodes? Do you see when Dusty Rhodes fought? And I'm like,
Bob
man, that's
Backlund,
that's a little
Dusty
bit
Rhodes.
before my
Yeah,
time.
okay,
I feel like that. Like, wait, that's a little bit before my
right,
time. But I go back and I watch those matches because they're classic too. So I kind of feel like
right.
that
But
now
the thing
with the
is, we have
younger
YouTube
generation.
now. We have
I
YouTube
know,
now,
I know, but I'm just saying
so now
how
we can watch anything.
we can. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying how I feel old. Like I feel like I have a friend who's in his
Right,
50s, and he's telling me, "You think this is good? Watch this from 1970 something." I'm like, "Oh God!" But then I'll go back and watch it,
right,
and
right.
I'll love it, and I'm like, "This is such an old motherfucker." And now I'm feeling old when I'm telling some 20-year-old, oh, watch the Hell in the Cell from 1998. And they're like, whoa, man, that's so long ago. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
it isn't. It's not that long ago. Come on. Watch
No,
when
it's not. It's not.
I know, but it feels like
But
it
yeah,
when a 20-year-old doesn't know, you know, what this match represents. It feels like it's that long
yeah,
ago.
no, I had that feeling when I was like when I was like 21, actually. Like,
Uh-huh.
we're talking like 1992. And, I would be feeling like, okay, like, Ric Flair is actually like that. That is what represents your perception of wrestling history. And yeah, no, in fact, I mean, Ric Flair was great. Ric Flair was awesome. But, there was more to it than that. You look back, you read the magazines, and there's like Dory Funk and Terry Funk and Jack Briscoe and all these people, Harley Race, and yeah, you just, I don't know. We didn't have the media access that we do now.
Yeah, no, I remember I used to look forward to getting the WWF magazine. And was it WrestleMania 3, I think, with the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan? I think it was WrestleMania 3 around that time. And, who was going to get
No, that was
the.
WrestleMania 6,
Was
motherfucker.
it 6?
WrestleMania 6.
Oh, God. What was
Yes.
WrestleMania 3 then? Was that the one where Hulk Hogan body slammed Andre the
That was
Giant?
Hogan and Andre.
Okay.
Yes.
Where he body slammed him. Okay, I got my numbers mixed up. But I remember that as a kid, trying to really looking forward to these magazines and because we didn't have access to it and we were too poor to order pay-per-views. So the only way to find out what happened in a
Exactly.
match was to buy the WWF magazine, which I was too poor to buy too. So I had a best friend in fourth grade who always had them and we would watch these and they were, I think you said this before on another podcast, that they were like our Marvel movies. They were our superheroes, for
Yeah.
welcome back, person that's watching. He left. I think he left because he was upset that I said it was WrestleMania 3 or she, and then he came back after you corrected me. But we're about to go because we're going over an hour here, and we were just reminiscing about wrestling and how we wish. But then I wonder. Here's a philosophical question to end the broadcast on, because every generation says that, right? Oh, this is good,
Right.
but it was way better in my generation. Like music from the 60s is good, but that's because you didn't grow up in the 40s. Music from well, I can't say the 80s. Let's say music from the 90s was great, but that's because you didn't grow up in the 70s. So it makes me wonder if I'm just not like an old fogey. And yes, new wrestling is good. It's just that I did, and I'm just going, yeah, but that's because he didn't grow up during the Attitude Era and, the couple years after. So I don't know. I always try to give it a shot. I try to give it a shot, and I haven't been too pleased with what I see thus far, but maybe I'll catch something at some point. Because I know.
Yeah. I don't know. Justin is really championing this league, AEW or whatever. And a big part of it is apparently Chris Jericho, who
Yes,
hates Vince McMahon. Um, so I don't know. It might be worth looking at. All I can say
American Wrestling, the
is
American
my
Wrestling League.
memories. Yeah, I have my memories. They were good, and I will continue to post Japanese matches in the Hard Knocks Wrestling group because I don't know. Some of those matches are really fucking good, man.
Yeah, they're
So
brutal.
yeah, I think it's yeah. It doesn't have to be brutal. It doesn't have to be brutal. Sometimes it can just be good work.
I like brutal though. I do like brutal.
Yeah,
Uh, it,
brutal is good. It's good, but
no,
it doesn't
because
have to be.
yeah. I mean, unless the guys are really good workers, and they know how to sell it, I'll dig it. But there comes a point where yes, it's staged. Where like I get taken out of the actual match itself, and it's like it's staged, and they're just kind of, especially when I'm watching some of the Japanese matches and I don't know those guys and I don't know their promos, I don't know their character. So then I'm like, okay, it's just two
Right.
guys kind of play fighting. I mean, I can watch an old, 1980s or 1970s match. I don't know, like take, Jake the Snake versus Macho Man or something. They weren't brutal matches, but because I know the characters and I know the
No,
promos,
I actually
it
saw that live. I saw Jake the Snake and Macho Man live.
that's a great match. But it's the fact that you know the characters that even if they're not doing anything brutal, it
Right.
makes it interesting to watch. Ric Flair, because of the character of Ric Flair, he's not doing anything mega flashy like jumping off the top ropes and somersaults and whatever.
No, he always jumps off the top rope. He just gets
No,
flopped.
but you're not getting the point. It's like they're not doing insane stuff like Hell in a Cell type insane.
Right.
It's just
Right.
the kind of standard wrestling moves, obviously with their own personal flair, no pun intended, but it's because of the
Right.
character that makes it interesting to watch. Whereas sometimes when I'm trying to watch some
Yeah.
of the Japanese matches, I don't know these guys, and I get taken out of it a little bit because I'm like, okay, they're just kind of play fighting because it's staged, and it
Yeah.
doesn't give me that same amount of excitement. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I
Right.
like the
Right.
brutal ones. If I'm
Well,
watching a Japanese one, I want to watch the no holds bar Japanese matches.
yeah. Yeah, I would say in terms of the Japanese stuff, you need to do a little more research into these characters because they actually do have their own depth,
I'm sure they do.
same level as the WWF characters. Like I was watching one today. Actually, it was Jushin Liger and Ultimo Dragon, and I mean those are two characters that actually crossed over to the U.S. market. Like Jushin Liger and Ultimo Dragon were actually characters
I
in
love the
the U.S.
dragon. Mm, yes.
Yeah, yeah, he was amazing. He was
Hmm.
amazing, and
Yeah.
Jushin
One of
Liger
my
was
faves.
too.
One of my faves growing up.
Um, and so, like, if you identify with these characters, I think that their matches become more appealing.
Oh no, I can imagine. Keep posting the stuff in the group. By the way, it's Hard Knock Wrestling if anybody's a wrestling fan, and I know we kind of made this into a wrestling podcast at the end, but we
Yeah,
still
we
so
could have
damn
got
good,
off
man.
topic.
No, we didn't because we were talking wrestling, but I saved it to the end because I figured we'd end up talking a lot about wrestling because I know you're a big fan and I'm a big fan. Although I didn't realize you were a big fan. I think I invited you over my house one time and I put on a wrestling match and I was like, oh, look at that. Pete actually digs this shit. I thought it was too lowbrow for your very elevated intellect.
No, no, no. My intellect is actually very low.
I know we're right at mid-range, me and Pete. I think that's why we get along. We're like mid-range intellect level where we can dig highbrow, but most of the time we're under the gutter. We're not even in the gutter. We're under the gutter most of the time.
Uh,
And,
I like Gigi Ellen.
yes, and if anybody takes sound clips out of this podcast, we'll know that Pete likes to watch babies being eaten, and I like things that are very brutal all the time. So those. Imagine they can take those two clips out of context and just peg us for what we really are, which are two miscreants of society. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you to the two people that watched live, whoever you are out there. I see this one little eye looking at me. I don't know who it is. I hope you enjoyed it. We had fun. So, just to review, we watched four things this weekend. I have my thanks for watching screen. And don't forget to like and subscribe, which I always forget to say at the beginning. But just to go back here, 1917, two very big thumbs up from me, and I think from Pete also. It was
Also
fucking
from me,
amazing
yes.
ball. Yeah, one of the best war movies I've seen in a long time. On par with Saving Private Ryan for me, although I have to watch Saving Private Ryan. And then we talked about The Old Guard for a little bit, which is a based on a comic book and with
Superhero movie.
Charlize Theron, superhero movie. So I'll definitely check that out because I like me some superheroes. And then we got some horror with The Beach House, some some, what do you call it? Some skin disease. What did she have? A fungal infection
Yeah,
and
bacterial.
bacterial infection movie, which I'll check it out because I saw that you guys were talking about it in the horror group. And by the way, shout out to Scott Crawford because he is awesome and he knows everything about horror. I think what's his page? The Graveyard on Facebook. It's the Graveyard Podcast or something.
No, it's the Friday Night Horror Park podcast.
Friday. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it is the Friday Nightmares podcast. When I listened to his podcast before, it's really good. So check that out, the Friday Nightmares podcast. And at the end here, we just went on a rant about wrestling because I rewatched for the millionth time The King of the Ring, and it still does not cease to amaze me. This match is so. They killed him! My God Almighty! They broke the JR, man. JR is my favorite. He's the best. He's
Yes,
the best.
yes, he's actually good. He apparently doesn't work for the WWE.
No, he hates them. I saw Steve Austin has a podcast I listen to every once in a while, and I think he had him on. And oh no, we didn't. I'm sorry because he wouldn't be on Steve Austin's podcast. I heard him on some other podcast where he was just kind of talking shit about McMahon and. Although he's very diplomatic about it, but he just kind of stepped away.
Yeah, he's always very diplomatic. He's like the ultimate pro. Like he's like, I don't like this guy, but I'm not gonna say shit about him.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't either. I mean, look at what he did for your career for at least 2, 3 decades. I mean, JR is, for me, he's the voice of wrestling. I know a lot of people have their favorites, but him and the King together is unbeatable. Because they just work so well.
Amazing.
Yes. They killed the man, my God. That's the best. Anyway, all right, guys, we're just babbling on here, so we're gonna go. Next Monday we'll be back, hopefully around 10 and not 11. I'll try to watch all my movies earlier, not like right before the podcast. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know in the comments anything that you watch that you think we should watch. And I promise there will be a Star Wars podcast at some point in our lifetime. Oh man, yeah. I'm sorry, Pete. It's just that every time I look at like it and how much more I have to just cut down, I was considering it this week, and I was like, you know what? If people listen to an hour and a half of it, which I've already edited down, fuck the last hour and a half. Like they're just gonna ride through it, you know. So I might just say fuck it to the last hour and a half because something just gets in my brain when I think about cutting down the rest of it. But anyway, that's it. I'll get it out there. Don't worry about it. And that's it. Good night, everybody. Pete, stay on. Don't go off like you did last time. All right?
All right. I will.
Adios. And broadcast now.